And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Happy Sunday. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of contradictions, Bible contradictions, according to Mr. Bart Ehrman. Apparently, him and a guy named Meet Vision, they've been a duo. One of my favorite duos, Heretics. They've been a couple for a while trying to debunk Christianity, and apparently they said they started off as Christians. And unfortunately, they lost their faith, and now they're helping, according to them, or should I say, trying to sway people away from the faith, which is bothersome, if you will. So we're gonna go through some of his contradictions and see if we can debunk them. All right. So let's see what we got here. Share screen. Okay. So share audio systems. Entire screen. Hopefully y'all can see my screen. So according to Mr. Bart Ehrman, these are his three top Bible contradictions that apparently Christians have no answers for. And these are the juiciest. So we're gonna go through all three of them. There we go. Top 3 Bible contradictions. And let's see how.
Job security. Isn't it the best? The cozy feeling knowing your job is safe until the next round of layoffs or when your boss decides to restructure. Because let's be honest.
All right, lady. That's good. That's good. So
I said to him, "No, Nigel, not without the brie." Indubitably.
Vision Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to do, go down in the description. What's going on?
December 5th on what did the Christmas story really happen?
Of your favorite contradictions. And there you go. So,
all right.
I want to talk about 3 to 5 of your favorite contradictions. They're all subjective. This is your decision, and we'll just start with one and work from there. I'd like to pick 3 to 5 major contradictions in the New Testament that you really enjoy.
Okay, I'll tell you. First one I'll tell you is the one that made me realize that that the Bible's not inerrant. If people have read my stuff, they might have heard this one. But
by the way, when they say the Bible is inerrant, I don't know why they try to attribute that. I know Bible translations over the years came about and languages do change, so every now and then the Bible has been revised, restandardized. So they call it inerrant. No Christians go out there that you can't find, spelling errors and places we change names and stuff like, because places do change name over time. But that don't mean the Bible is actually word for word, with contradictions and textual criticism, you want to attribute to the Bible. Why? Because, like I said, the storyline stays the same. It doesn't affect the doctrine. We have thousands of copies. We have thousands of copies. Even with the 4 codices we have, the Codex Sinaiticus, the Codex Ephrainus, and the Vaticanus, and the last codex. It's like 4 codices plus the thousands of manuscripts we have. Basically, so we are able to fish out or sift through, this papyri, and see which one goes back to the original, if you know what I mean. So it's unfortunate that
in Mark chapter
let's
2,
just keep going for now.
So let me just say, I was a fundamentalist. I thought there was no mistakes in the Bible of any kind, no contradictions. I could explain anything. And so, like fundamentalists today still can. And so in Mark chapter 2, Jesus' disciples are going through the fields of grain. It's a Sabbath. They're hungry. They peel off some grain. They start eating it. And the Pharisees see them doing it. I guess Pharisees are in every corner in Galilee watching to see people eating grain on the Sabbath. They're doing it. And the Pharisees get really upset. And they say, Jesus, your disciples are harvesting grain on the Sabbath. You can't do that.
Yeah, well.
And tell them to stop. And Jesus says, look, don't you remember what King David did when Abiathar was the high priest? He went into the temple and ate the showbread with his people, with his men, because they were hungry, even though only the priests are supposed to eat it. Sabbath was made for humans, not humans for the Sabbath. And so you have the story. So I had this class at Princeton Seminary, a Greek interpreter.
Again, we're talking about Mark chapter 2, where the Pharisees, confronted Jesus about his disciples eating, on a Sabbath day. And they peeled the corn right from the crop and started eating it. So, and Jesus made mention of David's throne and how David ate, during the sacrificial time, and what he's talking about, Mark chapter 2. So let's see what the contradiction
of Mark. My first studied Mark in Greek, and at the end, I wrote a paper on this passage because this took place in the Old Testament when Abiathar. But the Old Testament says Melech was the high priest, Abiathar's father. So I wrote that in fact it says Abiathar was the high priest.
About thinking he got one up on the Bible, but point to note, you got to understand, especially for us upcoming apologists, don't be ashamed to go through articles that have been put out there, because the homework has already been done for you. It's already done for you. Thank God for pious men who have done the homework, make it easy for us, to go out there and what they go through, see what objections, is being laid out by heretics, towards the faith, and see how pious men who are zealous enough for God, how they're able to answer it, study their articles, so don't be ashamed to go through, answers that has been given over the years. But let's start with what he's talking about. So apparently, Abiathar, when Jesus mentioned Abiathar at the time, he actually meant Abimelech. At least that's what where the contradiction lies. That's what he's talking about. So let us see what answers have been given, by Christian apologists over the years, and I'm pretty sure he's been given the answer, but he probably just brushed it off. And like I said, they're laughing about it very humorously. So let's keep going for now.
It's a very complicated argument, and with the grammar of the Greek and the style, I already, so 30 pages later, boom, it really was Ahimelech, and Jesus knew it. So at the end, my teacher was very pious and very devout Christian, but he wasn't a fundamentalist, but he was a very devout Christian. And he liked my paper, gave me an A on the paper. Then at the bottom, he said, maybe Mark just made a mistake. I thought, that would be easier than a 30-page paper that's dancing around the problem. Yeah, okay. So once I realized that, it opened the floodgate. After that, I started finding all sorts of contradictions. And the thing is that sometimes they're big.
Well, let's squash your first one. All right, let's squash your first contradiction. Contradiction of Mark chapter 2. Hopefully you can see my screen. Again, hopefully you can see my screen. Let me see. Okay, this is what he's talking about. Mark chapter 2, verse 26. It's Abiathar, a mystic, in Mark chapter 2, verse 26, when it's supposed to be Ahimelech, who was the high priest at the time. Okay, the Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 21, then came David to Nob to Ahimelech, the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David and said unto him, Why art thou alone and no man with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech, the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I sent thee. And what I have commanded thee, I have appointed my servant to such and such a place. Now, therefore, what is under thy hand, give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present. So this is the whole story. Basically, Ahimelech was the high priest at the time, not Abiathar, his son. Let's see answers that, was given about this very contradictions he's talking about. Now, here's a contradiction. About 1,000 years later, Jesus comments in Mark chapter 2, verse 25, and he said unto them, Have ye never read what David did when he had need and was hungered, he and they that were with him, how he went into the house of God in the days of Abiathar, the high priest, and did eat the showbread, which is not lawful to eat but for the priests, and gave also to them which were with him. Okay, it certainly seems bizarre that Jesus spoke of a high priest named Abiathar instead of high priest Ahimelech. Was he mistaken? No. Let's see why. Let us first establish the link between Ahimelech and Abiathar. Ahimelech was high priest at the time of 1 Samuel chapter 21, the opening passage. Abiathar was one of Ahimelech's sons, especially if you read chapter 22 of 1 Samuel. Once King Saul hears of Ahimelech helping David, Saul mercilessly executes Ahimelech and all his priestly brethren and sons in Nob. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. Abiathar survived the genocide and became an ally of David. So yeah, they're just giving explanation. Let's read what else they have to say about it. The Bible contains no error in Mark chapter 2, verse 26. When Jesus called Abiathar high priest here, it is not to say that he thought Abiathar was high priest at the time of 1 Samuel chapter 21. Abiathar was certainly not high priest yet. Still, David eventually appointed Abiathar to be high priest, and this connection is likely what Jesus is underscoring. It is no different from us saying the United States President George Washington was born and grew up in Virginia. Of course, we're not implying Washington was president as a newborn infant. No, he was 57 years old when he resumed the presidency. We're commenting in retrospect. Washington have already served as president in Mark 2:26. Jesus is speaking of Abiathar in the sense of review, because that was who they knew. That's who was more popular. He was more popular than his father. So Abiathar had already functioned as high priest, and that was during David's reign. David and Christ closely associated. In the days of Abiathar, the high priest is best understood as in the lifetime of Abiathar, the high priest. True, to oppose to when Abiathar was high priest. So that is not erroneous. And for some reason, you know, he is not satisfied by what answers was given to him. And also, there's another website called Answering Christianity. So let's see if they gave the same thing. Give me a second, guys. So it is not a contradiction. It is just the contradictions in the for some reason. It's quite unfortunate. So that was who they knew, Abiathar and Ahimelech. But Abiathar was more popular. He was the one who also got appointed. Days, that's how Jesus phrased it. During the days of Abiathar, you know, but Ahimelech was at the time, you know. It's not a contradiction, Mr. Bart Ehrman. Like the answers. Everybody's entitled to their own, you know, opinion. You know, so let's continue with the video. Go ahead and cut this one off. Yeah, that's one.
Sometimes they're little, but if somebody's a fundamentalist, the big ones don't bother you, because you can explain those away. Oh, she's going to die, and she's becomes a leader whose daughter,
okay?
Jesus, and he says to Jesus, sick, and could you come heal?
This is the second
and
one.
He comes up.
Let's see what he's talking.
In the Gospel of Mark, there's a man who's a leader of a synagogue, whose daughter has gotten sick, and he comes up to Jesus and he says to Jesus, "My daughter's sick, and could you come heal her, because you know she's going to die?" And Jesus says, "Okay." So Jesus starts going to his house, and before he can get there, he gets interrupted. Another thing happens. Somebody bothers, and he has to deal with this other thing. And by this time, the man's daughter's died. So he gets there, and it's too late. She's dead. I'm too late. Jesus says, "Don't worry about it. I'll heal her." And so he goes into the room. She's dead. And he raises her from the dead. That's Mark's gospel. Matthew's gospel says that what happened is, this guy's name was Jairus, by the way. His name is Jairus. So this is the story of Jairus' daughter, Jairus. And so in Matthew, it says, this man Jairus comes up to Jesus and he says, my daughter has just died. Can you do anything about it?
Unlock the world's largest, most liquid financial market with Forex.
Get that out of the way.
In Mark's gospel, she wasn't dead yet. The whole point is she wasn't deed yet. But right. In Matthew, she comes up, "My daughter died. Can you do?" So Jesus goes and he raises her from the dead. Okay, but it's like, which was it? It couldn't be both. So when I was a graduate student, I started.
We already debunked his first contradiction about Abiathar and Ahimelech. You know, so Jesus' main focus on that first objection that he brought up is he's talking about during the days of Abiathar, Ahimelech's son. They were both high priests, but David was the one who still appointed Abiathar to be high priest. So in the days, that was Jesus's focus. That is not a contradiction. The second contradiction is talking about Mark chapter 5, where Jairus came to Jesus to plead for him to resurrect his daughter. And according to Mark gospel, the daughter wasn't dead yet when he came to Jesus. But before they got there, the daughter died. If you notice, that narration tells you that while they were on their way, the people in Jairus' house came to find him and said, well, she just passed. You know, this is when Jairus came to Jesus and they were on their way, you know, to go heal her. But in Matthew's gospel, he's talking about the daughter died already, and Jairus came to Jesus and said, please, my daughter has just died. Can you please come heal her? So Mark's gospel is saying she wasn't dead yet. She only died on their way over there. And we also saw narration of the people in Jairus' house coming to him saying, man, you know, you're too late. She eventually passed. But Matthew's gospel is just leaving those narration. He didn't even mention any of that. Even the people in Jairus' house coming to tell him that the daughter just passed, you know, that they were too late or whatnot. You know, he didn't even mention any of that. The Bible, especially the Gospels, the four Gospels, we have one Gospel. It is one Gospel, but four accounts. So if everything is word for word narration per narration, we won't have four Gospels. We only have one. And apparently he sees that as a contradiction when it actually isn't. I don't know if y'all can see my screen. I'm not going to show it, but let's see if I can find just something right quick. Matthew's focal point really wasn't the narration per se. It was more of the resurrection. Mark's gospel gave us a little bit more detail on what was going on. According to Mark's gospel, Jairus came up to Jesus. Please, my daughter is ill at the point she gets. Can you please come heal her? On their way over there, the people in his house, Jairus' house, came up to him and said, you're too late. You know, she eventually passed, and, you know, and Jesus Christ came over there and still raised her from the dead anyways. Matthew's gospel, he's saying, he's narrating that the daughter just died, you know, and Jairus is talking to Jesus saying, please, my daughter has just died. Can you come heal her? It's not a contradiction because that's a different account. And proof of this is because even Mark's narration that gave us the story of the people in Jairus' house coming to meet them to let them know, hey, you're too late, you know, she eventually passed. You know, Matthew omitted that. He didn't give narration of that. His focal point was more of the miracle, the dead girl, and how Jesus raised her from the dead. That's his account. That is not a contradiction. If every narration have to be the same word for word, letter for letter, then we won't need four gospels. We will only need one. Each one of them complements each other. You know, so you can't read one account and expect for the account to be exactly the same in a different account. Then we don't need both accounts. We only gonna need one. We don't read the Bible like that. Another example of when one of the gospel accounts talks about Jesus being brought to Pilate, I said this before, and one of the soldiers struck Jesus, and Jesus was like, why did you strike me just now? You know, you don't get the full gist of what's going on in that narration, but if you read a different account, it tells you Jesus Christ was blindfolded. You know, so we don't read one account. And if all 4 accounts are the same word for word, then we would need all 4 gospels. We only need 1. So that is not a contradiction, Mr. Bart Ehrman. You know, apparently this duo right here, they've been a couple. You know, they've been, you know, going out there trying to swear people away from the faith. And he has a lot of following, both of them. Bart Ehrman, on the other hand, he's a New Testament critique historian. You know, that's he's atheist. He don't believe Jesus is God, you know, but he do believe in the historicity of Jesus Christ. Mid Vision, on the other hand, they both started out Christian, but for some reason now that they rejected or renounced the faith, they're trying to sway people away. So that debunks his second contradiction. That is not a contradiction, Mr. Bart. You know, you just have to be open-minded. Nobody read the Bible, you know, the way you guys are looking at value. But let's see what his third contradiction is.
Starting to leave my view of the inerrant. It's all logical, makes sense, and they can argue for it. This conference was on whether the Bible's contradictions. It may not be good, but it was great. They said, yeah, great. So we had lunch, and it was great. We told stories. It was a great time. But so we're having this thing. For example, write a biography during his ministry to go out and heal the sick and cast out demons. And he says to them, don't take a backpack. Don't take extra sandals. Don't take. In Mark's gospel, Jesus sends out the disciples, and afterwards the moderator gets up, who's also a conservative evangelical, and he says, okay, so the 4 of you, I've got a question. I want you all to answer this. In Matthew's gospel, Jesus sends out the disciples on his mission during to go out demons. Don't take extra sandals. Don't take any money. Don't take a staff. You know, just go. And so in Matthew, Jesus sends them out, go heal the sick, raise the dead, or cast out demons, and take a backpack. Don't take extra sandals. Don't take a staff. Just the opposite. So the moderator says, okay, which did Jesus say?
Again, they're laughing about it very humorously. You know, it is the staff, that stick, that's what's bugging you, you know, on that contradiction. One account is saying don't take anything, not even a staff. The other account is saying take a staff, don't take anything. So that stick, that staff, that is what is pricking you, right? Man, you guys are so hilarious, man. You guys are hilarious. And look at the demons in their faces. Let us see what they're talking about. Third contradiction, correct? Let's see. Again, all you upcoming apologists, don't be ashamed to use articles and answers that's been given over time, you know, by heretics who are attacking the faith. You know, again, these men, they are very zealous, you know, for the Lord, and they've done the homework for you. So don't be ashamed to go through their articles, you know, go through their debates and use the answers, as long as you fact check them to make sure what they are saying is right. Fact check them. So this is the contradiction he's talking about. Let's see if okay, this one, Matthew's gospel, right? In Matthew's gospel, it said, these 12 Jesus sent out and commanded them, saying, do not go into the way of the Gentiles. Do not enter a city of the Samaritans. but go rather to the lordship of the house of Israel. But go rather to the lordship of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the leper, raise the dead, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor copper in your money belts, nor bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics, nor sandals, nor staffs, for a worker is worthy of his food or of his wages. So according to Matthew chapter 10, 5 to 10, Jesus said, don't take anything at all. Let's look at Mark's. According to Mark, he commanded them to take nothing for the journey except a staff, no bag, no bread, no copper in their money belt, but to wear sandals and not put on 2 tunics. According to Luke chapter 9, 1 to 3, then he called the 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all demons and to cure diseases. He sent them to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. And he said to them, take nothing for the journey, neither staffs, nor bag, nor bread, nor money, and do not have 2 tunics apiece. So Mark's gospel, Luke, and Matthew. Mark's gospel is the only one that said, take the staff. And that's where the contradiction lies. At least that's how he tries to understand it. So let's see answers that was given or that has been given. I don't think that was his focal point. You know, Jesus, in a way, I don't think he already told them, take nothing. You know, but this staff issue, that is what is pricking Mr. Bart Ehrman and Mid Vision right here. In these parallel passages, Jesus issues an urgent command to his 12 students, disciples. Go and preach the immediacy of the kingdom of heaven to your Jewish brethren. The English translations contain an apparent discrepancy in what Jesus told them to take with them. Were they to take a staff or not? The issue can be cleared up by studying the Greek words used for provide or take in the original manuscripts. All right. The sense of Matthew's provide, I think the Greek word is taomai, K-T-A-O-M-A-I, taomai, which means to get or to acquire. In this passage, which is Matthew's gospel, Jesus seemed to urge his disciples to go now. Don't take the time to find another staff. Just take what you have and go. He promised that the disciples will be provided for, so they didn't need to make elaborate preparation, basically. Mark, on the other hand, used brother meaning, airo, A-I-R-O. That's the Greek word used right there, which indicates to lift or to take up. In this passage, Mark seemed to convey the idea that Jesus wanted the disciples to take what they already have and go. Again, same scenario. Those who already have a staff were to take it, but were not acquired another staff. In the same vein, they should wear the sandals they had, but not wearing, but wearing to find another additional pair. They were to wear the tunic they already had, but wearing to get another. So take what they have. Again, the same idea. Basically, that's for the book of the Gospel of Mark. Although using the same word for take as Mark, Luke's gospel conveyed the same sense as Matthew's. So some scholars suggest that Luke probably gained his information mostly from Matthew's book and did have access to the book written by Mark. Luke also conveys that the idea the disciples were to depart quickly and without taking a lot of things with them. They needed to focus on preaching the kingdom of heaven and were to trust the Lord to provide for their needs. So, bottom line, no matter how you read the passages, it is still, the narration still give you the same idea. Jesus Christ sent them to go out forth. So Matthew, the idea wasn't really about the staff, but they want to make that an issue. I'm not gonna, there's nothing I can say about that, to each his own. But over the years, the Bible has been critiqued time and time again. Still stands tall. The Bible do provide its own answers. You just got to have an open heart to find the answers. But if you read it like they're doing at face value, you will find you can find contradiction in any book. It doesn't matter what kind of book you're reading. If you read it with the mindset of trying to find contradictions in it, you will find contradictions in it, which is quite unfortunate. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke's gospel, these are the synoptic gospels. If each narration is word for word, then we won't need all 4 accounts. We will only need one. And that is just the gospel truth. These are 4 different accounts of the disciples, giving us narration of what they saw, what happened around them, which is why you have to read all gospel to get the full package or the full idea of the story. Reading the Bible the way that you're doing, that doesn't do the Bible you're doing the Bible a disservice, basically. So that is not a contradiction. The staff is not the focal point. He's sending them out quickly. Go out. Basically, some of them had staff already. He told them to take whatever they had and go out there and preach. Don't worry about where your next meal is going to come from. Don't worry about how the journey is going to be. The worker is worthy of his wages, of his meat. The Lord will provide. That was Jesus Christ's focal point. So there is no contradiction, Mr. Bart Ehrman. And with that, this is supposed to be a short one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be squashing more contradictions, from time to time and trying to put these heretics back in their place. Again, mad respect, mid vision, I'm sure you know what you're doing. If you have come up to this conclusion, to where you renounce the faith and you was once Christian, then it's quite unfortunate. I don't know what would have swayed you, to that line of reasoning. He also has another video, which we're probably going to be tackling some other time, about how the miracles Jesus did, there are other miracles that happen in different communities about, miracles that are similar. He has a whole 2-hour video about it, about different communities and these different gods, and they did the same miracles, turning water to wine, healing the sick, raising the dead, and not, whatnot. So that was one of the major reasons why Mid Vision 2, renounced the faith. But people are forgetting the fact that even the book of Acts, gave us that same little history. The book of Acts tells us that over the years, even our Old Testament shows Old Testament prophets doing the miracles that Jesus Christ did. So that shouldn't sway us from the faith. Acts chapter 5, I think, towards the end, and he gave narration of how over the years messianic movements, came to be, and this movement have a lot of following. But when that figurehead is killed, that movement dies. They are scattered everywhere. So the fact that Jesus Christ and his own following, and we're still talking about him today, means that was actually God's plan. That was one of the things that swayed him from the faith, which I pray for him. He's a brother. Hopefully he comes back to the faith. But the way I'm looking at things, him and Bart Ehrman, who happened to be a New Testament critic, they're actually doing more harm than good. So we have to speak and do our part, and show them why they are wrong, And that way, you know, we can give people opportunity to actually, review, go back and review the Bible, you know, because the Bible will give you its own answers only if you read it with an open heart and not ready to find contradictions. And with that, happy Sunday. Lord bless each and every one of you. I pray for you guys. Catch you guys on the next one.